And we are back. Let's check out our next topic.
In jobs,
The Canadian Auto Workers Union has challenged our government to adopt a Buy Canadian policy. So, for instance, when the federal government needs stuff for our armed forces, it would make sure the stuff, trucks, planes, and tanks, let's say, is at least 60% Canadian made. There's been no response from the government on the issue yet, but they seem reluctant to take part. But if the unions want our governments to buy Canadians, then it stands to reason the rest of us, including their membership, should do so as well. And that means staying out of places like the dollar store. How well do you think that's going to work?
All right, so that's the burning issue. We decided to come to downtown Kitchener to find out who shops Canadian here.
No, I don't believe in Buy Canadian. For the last, 20 years they've been trying to get us to free global markets, and now they want to start closing them up again to protect themselves, and especially unions. They want to protect their jobs. Free Canadian doesn't protect everybody's job. It protects union jobs, not the regular people who don't make union wages. So as far as I'm concerned, protectionism should go out, and if they can't afford to run their business in a capitalist society, they shouldn't be running them.
Yeah, but don't you think that'd be a good idea if you could, buy Canadian and help out your fellow worker?
Yeah, like I said, buying locally, I mean, I guess escalating it to the next level where I, think about it more from the, Canadian perspective. I mean, it would help jobs and things like that.
Right, do you think it's a good idea that the government do it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's taxpayers' money. I mean, it would make sense to spend the money in the country anyway instead of buying it somewhere else.
So, yeah, it's okay. The government should do it, but maybe not necessarily you.
No, I think that we should. It's just not something I have in my own personal habit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
What about, you were mentioning that you don't really buy Canadian. What do you think? It's a good idea that the government do it? Not yourself.
I mean,
what kind of things do you buy Canadian?
I buy Tim Hortons, but that's not Canadian, is it?
I prefer to buy Canadian too, of course.
And how do you do that, and what do you buy?
Labeling as well. I try and stick to as much as I can anything that's made in Canada or whatever.
You ever go to the dollar store?
I do, and I understand where a lot of things are made, but unfortunately,
nothing in the dollar store is made in Canada.
I understand that.
And the safety of the product.
The reason why I do go, it's cheaper. If there was cheap stuff like that, like for $1 made in Canada, it should be there.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just the problem. I mean, you have a bunch of Chinese making $1 an hour, and then Canadians making $10 to $25 an hour, and these things simply don't exist. So you have a choice to make whether you want to keep Canadians in jobs or you want a cheap product.
I think we've made a false outlook on ourselves by we allow foreign products to come in and they're paid cheaply, and we've got good products but we're paid more. So and we can't sell our products in their countries. So if we alleviate the sales tax, then that makes it more applicable.
Even if you alleviate sales tax, you're not going to get things down to $1.
No, but people will start to pay attention that we're feeding ourselves then, and not feeding countries like China that don't even care about people.
Okay, so I find it very interesting that the CAW would actually even broach this subject when Canadians don't buy Canadian because it simply costs too much. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I think if you look back through history, there's never been a successful round of protectionism that has had the result that these people are expecting. All it does is it depresses everything in the economy, and people tend to look more inward. It is not going to save union jobs. It's not going to make the Canadian economy any broader. We have to look at what we produce, what we can produce well, look at the quality.
We've got foreign investment here in Canada. I mean, what do you do? I mean, we want to buy Canadian. I mean, Toyota, there's a company, and what's it done? Open, Woodstock.
Yeah.
Buying Canadian, what does that do with, Toyota there? That also employing and
exactly. Well, what surprises me is when GM says buy our products, and you find out that all the motors for their vans are made in China.
I think it's a nice idea, but then you've got to look at the scale to which we can do that, right? It doesn't just start with the auto workers. You've got even starting with the global warming and all those things, buying local, buying fruits and vegetables, supporting our Canadian farmers as opposed to necessarily just people.
We make decisions every day, and we don't buy cars every day. We don't buy big pieces of machinery every day. So what do we buy every day or every week? Food is a prime example.
It's
buy
fruit,
local if you can.
Clothes if you can even.
I don't think there's a problem with buying local. I think maybe farmers might have an issue with that, but you have to buy the food that's in the store at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, obviously, you buy local, and when you come Canadian, you sure do. But I'm talking about, if I went into the dollar store just before Christmas, the place was thick with people in there buying stuff.
With
If we
today's
closed
economy.
those down, then people would have to go to the Canadian Tire, they would have to go to Home Hardware
when you
and
go to-
buy Canadian stuff.
When you go to Canadian Tire, check the labels on a lot of the stuff that they're selling there.
Yeah.
Everything that's on
Yeah, but-
sale was made in China.
Well, you know what, and that's the thing. I mean, the dollar store, I mean, it's a great store. I mean, you're in there, like it's the pricing, you know, for $1, you're getting everything. It's
Well, and there's inflation
convenient.
at the dollar store too. Now it's up to $1.25.
There you go. There's
a lot of them.
employees, you
So it doesn't. I don't know that it matters so much where it's coming from.
Okay.
because
Money
it's always
does
going to
talk.
cost.
But here we have Canadians losing jobs, and it's largely because we're not buying Canadian. That will not make Canadians buy Canadian.
Well-
What will make them buy is a bargain, is a deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes
So
you
we're
have to
cutting our own throat here.
But when you
Yes.
go back to look at, remember Eaton's? Remember good old Eaton's?
Sure.
Yes.
They used to have Buy Canadian right on the bags that they
Yeah.
had. And then after a while, towards the end of their demise, you went in the store, you couldn't find anything Canadian.
Yeah.
And that was indicative of where we're going with this now. You can't, it's not going to save any business.
We could argue about this forever. Okay, we are going to take a short break. We'll be back with more right after this.